So as I said today, we are spending some time giving you some information about hybrid and the model that we will have at Oregon City High School. But before we begin, I want to introduce who's here with us tonight. The administration team from Oregon City High School is here. My name is Carrie Wilhelm, and I am the principal at Oregon City High School. We have Dr. Stacy Erickson, Associate Principal, Toby Futch, Associate Principal, Mike Stead, Associate Principal, Andy Jones, Associate Principal and Athletic Director, and Lynn Berry, our Dean of Students. You can see there our alphabet split. So if you have questions, you can check in via email with the administrator that matches the alphabet of your student's last name. So our goal for tonight is to explore our hybrid model at Oregon City High School and how it will work so that you are able to make an informed decision about which option is best for you and your student. This will be a general overview. We'll go into some specifics, but you will not have all questions answered tonight. Some of these questions that you have, we are still working on based on some of the guidance from ODE and OHA and making sure that we're keeping our students' safety in mind. We are also continuing to work on finding the best educational model and system so that our students can have the best educational opportunity possible in our hybrid model. However, we do have a bunch of information that we want to make sure that you are aware of and understand so that you can make a decision on whether you are going to opt in to our hybrid model, which is the default. So you have to do nothing if you'd like to be in our hybrid model, or if you would like to opt out and stay remote for the remainder of the year. And you should have received a survey in your email yesterday that allows you to choose to opt out if that is what is best for you. So we will go through a presentation tonight, and then at the end, we'll answer questions, and you can put those questions in the Q&A button at the bottom of the page. Some of those we will answer throughout the night verbally. Others you will see that will be answered in written form, just responding back to you. And then of course, we will collect all of these questions and create an FAQ on our website that you can look at and share with other families that you know. So we are going to get started. So what will hybrid look like at Oregon City High School? So first, we will begin April 19th with our hybrid model. So that is about 2.5 weeks away. It will be, for a student, it will be 2 days a week in person. So students will be cohorted into 2 groups. Cohort A will attend school in the building on Mondays and Tuesdays. Cohort B will attend school in the building on Thursdays and Fridays. We are still working on getting these cohorts all aligned based on transportation and space within the building. Students and families should know which cohort you are in by the 12th of April. So students who are in building on Mondays and Tuesdays will be in building learning with their teacher from their trimester 3 schedule.
Carrie, before, yes. I just wanted to address that our Spanish interpreter just dropped. I think we have a bad connection. So I'm hoping that he will come back, but I apologize. I'm not sure if you can hang with us. We should have someone else arriving in about 5 minutes. And I don't know if they can understand that, but he did just leave. I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you, Lisa. We apologize for that snafu, and hopefully in 5 minutes we will have another interpreter here. Okay, so when students are at off campus, so on their off days, they will log into their classes from home. On Wednesdays, all instruction will remain remote and asynchronous. So Wednesdays will be the same for students as it always is. We're using that as a cleaning day to do some deep cleaning in our building. So we will have students in on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then a separate cohort on Thursdays and Fridays. Mentor teams, early bird and late bird classes will all remain remote. So students who are coming into the building on Mondays and Tuesdays will have periods 1 through 5 on those 2 days combined, and I'll show a schedule in a minute. And then Thursdays and Fridays, same thing, 1 through 5. So if your student has early bird or late bird, those will happen remotely, and all mentor teams classes will happen remotely as well. Another thing to note is that due to safety guidelines, we will have a closed campus. So that will mean that once a student is on campus, they will need to remain on campus. They can't leave, come back, go off campus for like a period, for example, and then come back. And that's for making sure that we're keeping students as safe as possible and cohorted and distanced. So the other option is remote learning. And so if you are choosing that hybrid is not the model that you would like for your student, you can choose to opt out of hybrid. And what you would be choosing is remote learning. And so if you are choosing the remote learning option, you would log into all classes online from home. Your teachers, your classes, the class times will all remain the same as they were under comprehensive distance learning, as they are in Tri-3 right now. So choosing remote learning does not send you to a different program. It does not mean that you don't have the same teacher, or it doesn't mean your classes completely change. You can select this option from the survey that was sent out yesterday afternoon. So we are going to go into some more details about hybrid and what that looks like. And so here is our hybrid bell schedule. This schedule looks very, very similar to a trimester 3 schedule. We adapted our trimester 3 schedule a little bit from trimester 2 in order to fit the hybrid system. So at Oregon City High School, our students will be on campus twice a week, either Monday and Tuesday or Thursday and Friday from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. They will fit their 1st through 5th period classes in on that time. So if you see here on the schedule, and we know it's hard to see, but we did send this out via email. It's also on our website, so you can check there. But on Mondays, periods 1 and 2, and on Tuesdays, periods 3, 4, and 5. The only difference between our CDL schedule, so what your students are doing right now, and the hybrid bell schedule is that on Mondays and Thursdays, we are adding a cell and study hall block. And so this block will be 1 time per week for the students. It will be offered live only. So the students who are remote at that day don't have to log into any Zoom. That will be a time where we will do some social emotional learning. The teachers will be interacting with their students, doing some study hall time, supporting them, having some great interactions, and working together, having some community building time as well as academic support. This class will be tied to the student's 2nd period class. So for example, on Mondays and on Thursdays, they'll have period 2. After 55 minutes of period 2, they'll take a little break in the classroom, and then the sales and study hall class time will start. And there will be no Zoom class time during that cell and study hall. And next up is Mike.
Thanks, Carrie. Hi all, Mike Stead, Associate Principal. So I'm going to get into some more specifics about exactly what class is going to look like, and hopefully be able to answer a few questions that have come up along the way. So during and after class, we're going to have students seated 3 to 6 feet apart. Guidance, the updated guidance from ODE says that we need to have at least 3 feet of distance between students, and our classrooms are all set for that. While in class, one student may exit the classroom at a time to access the restroom. Drinking fountains and vending machines will be turned off. Students are not able to bring anything except for like a water bottle to school, but we cannot have any eating and drinking of things that are not water at this time. Our students are going to be cohorted as part of hybrid, and those class sizes are capped to stay within that square footage guidance from ODE. At the end of the period, we've built in time for students to clean and wipe down their desk area. And then students will have 5 minutes to move between periods to go from class to class. So we'll still have passing time like we would if we were in the building normally. In terms of what hybrid's going to look like, it's going to look similar to the way that it's looked this year, at least when the students logging in at home. So teachers are going to be teaching to both hybrid and remote students at the same time. Teachers will be working to do specific in-class activities that engage students and have them interact with one another. So students are not just coming in and sitting down on Zoom in a classroom. They're coming in and getting instruction from a teacher who's also teaching to students that are remote. One thing to note is, due to the way that the hybrid schedule is set up, remote learning is still going to continue to drive instruction. All students, whether they're in hybrid or remote, are going to have more than 50% of their learning time happen at home or remotely. Teachers are going to communicate with all students. So students that are already in classes that opt to stay remote, or students that come into hybrid, are still going to have the same communication from their teachers. And then again, just to reiterate, that last 5 minutes of class is going to be time for us to clean and reset the space to keep it safe for the next group of students as they come in. So what students should bring to school? Students should bring a charged Chromebook and a charger every single day. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute.
I'm sorry, Mike, I'm going to ask you to pause just for a minute. Talia, our Spanish interpreter just arrived, so I wanted to have Stacy start that Spanish channel one more time and move Talia into that room. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Sorry for the pause, everyone. We're just having a little technology challenge this evening.
So I think she needs to be promoted to panelist. She might be using a different email. I don't see her in the panelist, and so thus I can't select her yet.
One moment.
I just
There we go.
promoted her.
Perfect.
Excuse me, Stacy and Mike, do you need me to interpret this for the parents in Spanish? Just explain what's going on.
That'd
Yes.
be great.
Okay. Ok, buenas tardes. A los padres que hablan español, estaremos abriendo el salón del español en 2 minutitos, menos de 2 minutos, como 30 segundos. Si ustedes averigüen la parte de abajo de su pantalla, van a ver este globito, un dibujito como un globo, y en un ratito traten de clicar, hacer un clic encima de este globo y van a seleccionar español. Y de ahí ustedes van a poder escuchar todo en español. 30 segunditos y empiecen a tratar. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Stacy.
Yeah. Do you think I'm okay to keep going? Are we all set?
I'm
We
testing.
might need to check to make sure the channel for Spanish.
Can somebody double check to make sure that the
Yeah, I'm testing right now.
perfect. So we just want to make sure that the interpretation room is working properly so that we're good to go, and we'll keep moving forward. So just give me a heads up if we're good, and then I'll keep going.
I am on the Spanish channel, and I am not hearing any Spanish. Perfect. She is here, so we are good to go.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I'll just start the slide over real quick. Students need to bring a charged Chromebook and charger every day. Students need to have a mask and should bring an extra just in case. And then beyond that, having students have some general school supplies. So things like paper, writing utensils, notebook, folders, like pretty basic school supplies. And again, no food or drinks except for water are allowed in the building. So if you do not have a school issued Chromebook, we're planning a distribution day prior to the start of hybrid to get Chromebooks to students. We're gonna have, the classwork is still going to continue to be based out of Google Classroom for students. So in the hybrid classroom, students are still going to produce digital work and then engage live with their instructor and with their peers, both peers that are live and potentially even with peers that are remote. The work that we're doing now around technology is giving the district and the high school the opportunity to move toward a one-to-one instructional model where Chromebooks support instruction inside and outside of the classroom in a typical school year, which is an exciting opportunity for us to be able to pilot now. And with that said, I'm going to hand things off to Toby.
Hi, I'm Toby Futch, one of the associate principals. We want to start. I want to start with safety starting at home. One of the things that we want to make sure that to make all students safe and all staff safe in the building is that when students and staff come to school that they are not sick. And that's one of the good things about hybrid is that even if a student is not feeling well, they can still engage from home and from the virtual side. So in the mornings, if students would please screen yourself for symptoms before coming to school. And if you have any of the following symptoms, please stay home: a fever, cough, sore throat, nausea, feeling lethargic, or loss of taste or smell. And you can engage virtually through your classes on Zoom. Masks are required at all times on the bus and on campus. So from the time you get on the bus or the time that if you're driving that you get out of your vehicle, please students have your mask on. If a student does not have a mask, one will be provided for them as they get on the bus or as they enter into the school building. If your student cannot wear a mask due to a medical condition, please make sure that we have documentation of that, to the nurse or counselor and state what the diagnosis is and why they are unable to wear a mask. So there are some requirements around masks. Which masks are okay would be cloth that have 2 layers or more of fabric. Gaiters do work as long as they have 2 layers of fabric. And medical or surgical masks are also okay to use. Masks that are not okay, are not approved, are going to be scarves, bandanas, face shields, unless you wear a mask underneath the face shield. What's next? And I'm going to hand it over to Lynn Barry, our Dean of Students.
Perfect. All right, so if your student is riding the bus to school for hybrid, they will unload and load the bus in a safe and organized manner, and that will be facilitated by the bus driver. Masks, like Toby just said, are required at all times on the bus, and students will be in a seat to themselves, and this is students will be spaced out according to ODE, which is the Oregon Department of Education, and OHA, which is Oregon Health Authority, the guidance from there. When students arrive at school, we kind of talked about this already, must bring a charged Chromebook and a charger every day. No food or drink is allowed except for water. We talked about masks that are required on all buses and wherever on campus. Bus and parent drop-off will be in designated locations only, and those will be distributed to you at a future time. Student parking will be in designated locations, and we are not requiring parking passes during hybrid. So if your student is driving to school, then we'll let you know where those parking areas will be. Students will follow their assigned route to their first class of the day. So for example, Cohort A on Mondays and Tuesdays, Monday would be period 1, and Tuesdays then would be period 3. So, and they're with Cohort B.
Also, I'm going to jump in here real fast. A lot more of the details on this will be coming out later. So specific details about exactly what entrances, what exits, specifics on where to park, all of those things will be coming out in the next few weeks. This is just that general overview to make sure that you understand the model so that you can make an informed decision. So
thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
The traffic flow, students will be directed to specific entrances and exits. There will be staff members on site helping facilitate that direction, and it's based on their first and last periods of the day on when which building they're going to go in and which building they will come out of at the end of the day. Students will be asked to stay to the right in the halls, and signage will be provided. So just going up the escalator in the mall, same thing, stay on the right and stay on the left when you're coming down. So it's a very, we use it in everyday life. Students will not be able to gather in the commons area around the school. So we're just going to be in our classrooms and, through the passing time from one class to the other. And dismissal, students will be dismissed in waves beginning at 12:30 to the main to maintain social distancing. Dismissal ways will be determined based on location and mode of transportation. So for instance, if students are walking, they might be excused first, or if they're being picked up by the transportation department or driving their cars, it would be in those types of waves. And prepackaged foods will be available for students to pick up before leaving the building from our nutrition services. And I'm going to turn it over to Stacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. The title of the slide, Why All the Rules? Obviously, we've been working our way through a pandemic, and we have ODE and CDC and OHA, I think OHA, that we're working with. And so we are really super excited to get some kids back in school, and we have these strict rules and protocols. But that doesn't mean that yes, school will look different than it has in the past, but we are really excited to have students back and to have that connection and have teachers and school staff and students be able to interact. And so that piece about trying to keep people safe is important. We've seen that around the state and around the nation, that it's important to follow the protocols. And so we've been pretty excited with our limited in person that our high school students have been wearing their masks and taking care of keeping their peers and their instructors safe thus far. So I think the next one. So, right, like Principal Wilhelm said, the reason for tonight is so that you can kind of see the model and really understand and kind of take into the different elements and to talk it over as a family. And we sent a detailed email on Thursday, 3/18 that explained the hybrid model, but we also sent an email yesterday that has a link to the form for opting out, which means that students are choosing not to come in person and will do all their learning remotely with the same schedule of teachers and Zooms. It's important to note that the default is hybrid. If you want to learn 100% remote only, you need to fill out the opt-out form. And so that's exciting because we are, as we look to help support all our families, we are confident that there's an option for everyone. And so that piece about, and the due date, it might not have been on here, but the form is due, and it's on there, but Monday, April 5th. So you have the rest of the week, you have time to talk to your student, and we are working with our staff to help them get up to speed. The questions and the different pieces, we want to make sure they're answered. And so I think now we are going to switch a little bit into a little bit of a mode of answering some. There are definite themes to the questions, so that's nice. So I'm going to open it up to Principal Wilhelm,
Great.
turn it back to her, and we can get started. I do know there were plenty of questions about personal laptops versus Chromebooks. And at this point, if you wanted to bring a personal laptop, that is okay. We are offering every student an OCSD device because it's part of the one-to-one initiative that will be important in the fall also. And so having an OCSD device is wonderful. But if you have a device that your student likes more or wants to use and can bring it every day, that's perfect. So those are the two options. So it might be in the past that personal devices, well, we weren't as welcome to personal devices, but now in a one-to-one situation, that's always part of the solution. So now I'll turn the time over to Principal Wilhelm.
Great. Can someone pull up the questions and maybe read them aloud for me to answer? I'm afraid that I'll mess up the slideshow if I pull them up.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, Mike, go for it.
Sorry. A question that's been in for a little bit is, if I have multiple students attending the high school, will they end up in the same day's cohort?
Great question. So in general, cohorts are, students are being cohorted by alphabet last name. So if you have students in a household who have the same last name, then the answer would be yes. When they have different last names, that may be a little different, but we are absolutely doing our best with transportation and with our building capacity to keep families together, even if last names are different. Other questions, Mike or Stacy?
Stacy, you're muted.
Yep. So one question is approximately how much of the SEL and study hall period is dedicated to SEL activity?
That is a great question. So it would depend on the lesson. I would say that some of our social emotional learning activities may be 15 minutes, where others may last more like a half an hour. So it depends on the activity. Some of the activities are a little bit more discussion based that may take a little longer in certain classes than others, depending on the group of students. And some of them are community builders, where the students are really getting to know one another. And so it might just depend on the community within the classroom, but it won't take the whole period. We do want to make sure that students have some time to do some of that asynchronous learning during that study period and get some of their assignments and their work done as well.
There were a couple questions about fifth period, and that's the study hall, or the fifth period. If the student didn't have a fifth period class, could they leave campus early?
Great question. Yes. So if your student does not have a fifth period, they do not have to remain on campus. We have a few students who also do not have a first period, and so they could show up late. Well, not late, but for their second period class. So if your student does not have a class that's either at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, they can come when their class time starts. The students who do not have a fourth period, there's not very many of those, but there are a few, they will need to remain on campus so that because of the closed campus situation and because of safety protocols, so they will remain on campus in a supervised location where they can work on work.
One parent asked, if a student chooses online only, remote only, can they participate in in-person activities such as drama, assuming that they get to do a final play or assuming there's in-person activities?
Great question. Clubs and activities will be separate. So yes, so you could be a remote only student and be a part of the play production that happens in the spring. Or if there is a NHS activity or a gaming club activity or a JROTC ball, and we are able to host those events in person, absolutely students who are remote only can participate in those. What they would be opting out of is the class participation in person. So that is separate than the clubs and activities and after school sports, all of that.
A few people asked about the possibility for cohort changes if they have siblings at other schools or work schedules for parents, and the implications of that.
Yeah. And this I understand is a tough one. Unfortunately, due to the size of our school with 2,000 students, the capacity of rooms and the transportation and operational restrictions that we have, we are unable to change students' cohorts.
There's a question about transportation to early bird class. And if a student has early bird, would they be able to have school transportation?
So early bird, late bird, and mentor teams are all 3 remote only classes. And so we have scheduled those courses with enough space in between for students who need transportation to, for example, an early bird class. You'd have it in the morning, and then you would have time to then get on the bus and be at school in time for first period. So early bird, late bird, and mentor teams are all remote only.
And then I think just to add, Carrie, I think part of the concern might be, what if I have an early bird that's at home and then I need to get to school afterward? And so just to add, early bird classes end at 8:50. So that's 40 minutes before the start of the school day. If a student's bus schedule was to conflict with early bird, that's something that we would work with the instructor to make sure that the student could catch the bus to get to school, just in case there was any concerns about that piece of it as well.
Great, thank you, Mike.
There was a question, which is a good one, about what if students haven't been to the school before? How will they find their classes? What will happen first?
Great question. So one opportunity that we have is for our current 9th graders. There is a limited in-person 9th grade link crew activity that is happening next week that we've had about 200 students sign up for. And so they will have the opportunity in small groups to be in the building for about 2 hours to do some community builder activities and get to know the school a little bit more. Also, we are going to be sending out videos and maps, and we will send out a video of a school tour to you so that you can at least see it virtually if you haven't been in the building before. And then I can assure you that you are going to have a ton of staff members there on day 1 to help you find your way. All of us administrators that you see here now will be out in the parking lot on the first day and every day of hybrid. We will have hall monitors in the halls for each hallway, and we will have our teachers who are standing in the halls welcoming you and helping you find your way around the building. So hopefully one of those ways will help you feel a little bit more comfortable about coming into the building maybe for the first time. And if you get lost, I've gotten lost in the school many times, and we'll just help you find your way out. I promise it'll be okay.
Truth on that. I got lost too. So, you got lost. Here's a question. What happens if a student isn't wearing a mask? Will my child be allowed to leave? Which that must be one, talking about mask wearing, and 2, can they be allowed to leave? I think that's 2 different questions, I'm thinking.
Yeah. So students will be required to wear masks, and we will work with individual students who are struggling with wearing masks to make sure that we find an appropriate place for them where they can be isolated and safe while we figure out how to help them wear a mask. We will have plenty of masks to give students who don't have masks. What was the second part of that, Stacey? Can you remind
Will
me?
they be allowed to leave?
The student who's not wearing the mask?
Yeah, it wasn't very specific, but is a student allowed to leave maybe?
Yeah. So school, we're not holding anybody hostage. So of course, if somebody is feeling uncomfortable about some of the safety that they perceive, we would love to have a conversation and talk with the student and the parent to make sure that we can make them feel as safe as possible. But if there's a situation that just isn't making somebody feel safe at the time, yes, we will work with you to hopefully remedy that and keep you in the building. But if you feel like you need to leave for some reason, we would absolutely call home and help in that sense. Students who are refusing to wear masks, we would of course deal with them on an individual basis and try to figure out why the refusal, and have conversations before sending people home.
Someone asked why masks are required outside, and I believe that's probably with Ready Safe Schools.
Yeah, so part of the ODE guidance is on campus, is the requirement. So whenever you are on campus, you are required to wear masks. And it's part of the Safe Schools Ready Learners, which is from ODE, and guidance from the CDC and OHA. And so my understanding of it is it's important to have consistent rules, and it's important to make sure that everybody is safe. And for schools to be open, we need to be abiding by all of these different protocols.
We did have a lovely question that says, are there going to be OCHS logo masks to purchase? And we weren't like going for a merch strand here, but literally we probably should have some of those on board.
I think so. I think it's going to be the new swag, right? New OC. Yes. So
the baseball team has the best ones thus far.
Yes.
So.
Well, just wait for the senior gifts. Those are coming too. So yes, I think we will be working on masks that represent OC and our Pioneer family. Absolutely.
Another person is asking, kids still come late or leave early for doctor appointments, etc.?
So the answer would be yes, although we would encourage, students are only in the building from 9:30 to 12:30. So it would be ideal if you could schedule appointments outside of that time. It is disruptive to the learning environment. And as you know, with the strict protocols and rules, students would be able to, leave early or come late, but not the in between. So ideally, if possible, please schedule doctor's appointments, medical appointments, dentists, all of those appointments after 12:30 or before 9:30.
A great question is about, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that if students do leave early, they cannot come back.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, for that
and also Wednesday is available for appointments and that sort of thing.
For that day, Lynn?
Yeah, so if you're leaving early, you leave after second period, you wouldn't be able to come back into the other period. Once you leave campus, you have to stay off campus.
Until the next school day.
And there's a great question about after school activities and for students who do not, or they just for students who do not ride the bus. So I think that's leading to an activity bus question, which we haven't, I think, discussed.
We do not have an activity bus happening at this time. Any activities that happen outside of the school day will be small group based. So based on a club that you might be involved in, or an athletic event that you're involved in, or maybe an extracurricular for the class. And those would not have transportation to and from scheduled. So students would need to find their own transportation to and from those. Many of our clubs and activities are planning, at least initially, to stay virtual for the time being. And many of them are considering doing some sort of hybrid type model as well, where maybe some people will be meeting on campus, but some people who can't meet on campus can still Zoom in. And we don't have any of those in-person activities planned, with the exception of athletics at this point. So those will be coming soon, and we'll continue to work on all the logistics of how those will work.
Another question that came in is, with the wave of dismissal, it sounds like students will be released in waves at different times. Will there be an announcement for the specific times?
Yeah, so the way it will happen within the building is, for example, at 12:30, if there are 2 or 3 buses that are there ready to go, we'll say, students who ride these 3 buses can exit. Or, for example, if you drive yourself, you may exit now. And so there will be an announcement in the school building to announce when the waves of dismissal will happen. And it won't be a long wait. So we're not talking a half hour of a wave of dismissal. But the important piece is according to ODE and OHA, that we can't have a big rush at the end of the day where all students are out in the hall at the same time and heading out the exit doors. We need to keep that spacing and that social distancing. So more, it's just a little bit of gatekeeping to make sure that we don't crowd the exit areas. There will also be multiple exits for students so that they can stay distant within their wings.
Someone asked, what happens if someone in a cohort tests positive?
That is a great question. And so we will be following the OHA and CDC guidelines that are laid out in Safe Schools, Ready Learners. And there is very strict protocols based on who the person is, who they came in contact with, where they went in the building. And that is why we have such strict guidelines on where students are in the building, where the spacing is, that sort of thing. And then we report that as a school to the county, and then the county gives us guidance on what to do. Every case tends to be a little different depending on what the case looks like, who they came in contact with, where they were in the building, and that sort of thing. If somebody in the school tests positive, it does not mean that we go straight back to comprehensive distance learning. And I can assure you that we will follow the Oregon Health Authority guidance and our county in following the protocols and notifying appropriate parties.
If a student starts hybrid and decides that they want to go to completely remote, can they?
Great question. And this would be something that we probably would just want to talk about with that student and family to help them make that decision. So ideally, we'd love for you to have that decision made by April 5th so that we can plan accordingly. And we will hope to see your student there. If you do not opt out of hybrid and you are planning to go to hybrid, we hope to see your student there and hope that they will love the opportunity to see their teachers and their peers in person. But if something comes up where there is a change in plans, the student can talk to their associate principal or their counselor.
Another question or comment is, I assume that teachers will be flexible about tardiness in the beginning of this transition. Many ninth graders specifically would probably need leniency with this on certain days. And I think all of us would agree, yes. And so I think we'll work to try and obviously watch protocols and make sure everybody's safe. But I think that the 7 weeks that we'll be in business as a hybrid school definitely will be a work in progress. And we are really making sure the kids are happy. And there was another question that kind of goes along with that. It's more about instruction. And it was about the pedagogical goals of hybrid versus comprehensive distance learning. And I don't know if you want to speak to that, Principal Wilhelm.
What was
It
there
says
a question? or
philosophical
just
and
a-
pedagogical goals of the hybrid model in contrast to online.
Oh, yes. Well, I have never been a teacher in a hybrid model before. So, and neither have any of our teachers. So this is new to all of us. And so just like the question about having that grace for freshmen or other students who might be a little late or trying to figure out the building, we are asking for that grace as well. However, I can tell you that we have been doing a ton of research, and our teachers are very excited and trying to learn as much as they can about how to make the hybrid model work instructionally for our students. And there are many schools across the nation who have been doing this for a while, and we have a few schools in the area who have started up recently, and we are learning from them. Teachers are brainstorming some amazing creative ways to get students engaged and interact while they're in the classroom, and having some opportunity to have discussion and work digitally on their Chromebooks and on their computers while still having interaction face to face, and having some of those discussions and arguments and inquiries and some lab type experiences in person, while still having that digital learning platform of Google Classroom. And I know that we are providing some professional development for our teachers in the coming weeks on some ideas on how to do that. And we have been meeting with students in small groups to get some of their suggestions on what they would like and what they have seen has worked and what they are enjoying about the comprehensive distance learning, and how we can enhance that in the classroom when people are back in person.
There's a question about students having time to access teachers for extra help between classes or after school, or is this just focused on their office hours?
Great question. So unfortunately, due to the time constraints of when we have hybrid and students in the building, there is not a lot of time to access teachers in person, after school, before school, or in passing time. Hopefully some of that can happen during class time. And then also some of it can happen during the study hall and cell blocks on Mondays and Thursdays. However, our teachers will also continue to have their office hours and their student support hours on Wednesdays. And many of them I know have been readily available via email and Zoom calls on other days as well. So most of the support and extra one-on-one help will still happen remotely.
Is there any change for carrying backpacks? Can students carry backpacks?
Students can still carry backpacks, yes.
And when will parents find out about cohort A or cohort B?
We will have cohort information to students and families by April 12th. So a week before hybrid begins.
And what about if their Chromebook or personal laptop gets lost or stolen?
Yeah, so if your school issued device gets lost or stolen or damaged, work with us at the school to help you replace it and get a replacement for that. Your own personal device, you are bringing those to school at your own risk. We will do our absolute best to help you retrieve it, find it, and get it back. However, that is definitely something that you have to think about when you are bringing your own school or your own device to school, which is partially why we recommend a school issued device, and that it's not on your own personal device that you lose or have damaged.
We did have a question just for clarification that if a family had students at each level, would they possibly be on different cohorts?
It is possible that students, if you have students at the middle or elementary school, that they may not be on the same cohort at the high school level. We are trying our best as a district to minimize that disruption. However, with a district this size and a school of 2,000, we are not able to guarantee that they will be on the same cohort.
And a few device questions about will students need to bring their own chargers?
So students, when students are checked out a school issued Chromebook, it comes with a charger, and we recommend that they bring those with them just in case they need to charge that at school. But we also recommend that they charge it at night when they're sleeping and not on the computer, so that they come to school with it fully charged, because if every student needs to charge a device at school, we don't have all the plugins for that.
And what about when are those devices going to be handed out?
We will be doing a Chromebook distribution within the next couple weeks before hybrid begins, and we will send more information out about that. You can also pick up a Chromebook at any time after filling out a technology device form that is on our website as a school. It is also on the district technology page of the district website. And so you could pick one up in a few days without even us having that event. So if you would like to do that sooner, you're more than welcome to. But we will have a distribution event within the next couple weeks and send you an email with that information when it is scheduled and the time.
And what about, could students use their phones to access Google Classroom or to access Student View for their schedules?
They can definitely use their phones to access Student View to figure out what their schedule is. We don't recommend using a phone for all of their Google Classroom. It is just not the best way to submit assignments and to type out reports and those sorts of things on a phone. And so we would definitely recommend a Chromebook or a laptop for that.
There was a COVID question about if it takes several days to receive either positive or negative COVID test, what is the protocol if a staff member or a student are awaiting results? And will the cohort be notified of possible exposure?
So we will be following all the OHA and CDC and OHA guidelines on this. Notification is a very specific, it has specific protocols, and the county is definitely overseeing that. So when we hear of a possible case, even if we are waiting for results, we notify the county, and then the county guides us in what our notification process should be. I am not a scientist and I am not a health professional, and so we follow what they recommend and their guidance in consultation with our district nurses and our district personnel. So once again, it is dependent on the case and the situation, but I can assure you that we follow our health professionals' guidelines and protocols on those processes.
Will there be on-site testing and temperature checks?
There will not be on-site temperature checks. They're according to the new guidance from ODE and OHA, is the screening is happening at home, and our on-site testing is not something that is required except in special circumstances according to ODE. So we do not have plans at this time to do on-site COVID testing because we are following the rules of OHA and Ready Schools Safe Learners, and are in the metrics according to the county that we do not have to have on-site COVID testing.
One question about, and Mike, you had it marked as going live on that, AP tests, how will they be handled between hybrid and online?
Yeah, I was going to steal that one since I oversee AP testing. So students were sent a survey or have been sent a few surveys now, or the same survey multiple times, just asking them to select their testing window. This year, AP testing is able to be split into both like a standard window and a later window. So the standard window is happening toward the end of May this year, and then the later window happens early in June. Most AP tests this year are designated as at-home tests, meaning that they'll be done remotely and students will log in online. Exceptions to that are the math tests, so calculus and statistics, as well as Spanish language, physics, and chemistry. Those happen in the May window in the building. However, in June, those tests are available remotely for students to take. So students should check in with their AP teacher about the specifics around their tests, or they're welcome to send me an email, and I'm more than happy to answer any specific questions that they might have about that.
On that one, there was a question about will there still be state testing, and will remote only kids also be testing for state testing?
So Oregon, the state of Oregon ODE has put in a waiver for to be waived from state testing this year. We are still waiting on the results of that waiver. And so as of right now, we are assuming that state testing is happening this year. And so we are moving forward with state testing plans, which will need to be in person, and students who would choose remote only would be part of state testing opportunities.
There is a question about after school academy, and is that, or lunch academy, is that still going to go? And yes, we have every day, well, on Wednesday, we have office hours for teachers, but on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday from 1:30 to 2:30, we will be having lunch academy or after school academy. And on Thursday, it's at 2 to 3. So kids can remotely get help. There's tutoring and NHS tutors and teachers in there to help support students. And so we've shifted that to be after the school day, after they get after students get home, which is more alike to when we're in brick and mortar.
All right, it is 8:03. Do we have any more general themes that we need to respond to before signing off for the night?
I think.
Well,
Go
ahead, Mike.
Sorry, one that came up that I think is a really good one for parents in general is, will attendance standards change? Or are there still several opportunities to be present for the day, like what we've had under CDL? How will that look moving into hybrid?
Great question. So yes, there will still be multiple opportunities for students to be marked present for the day. We will take attendance for students who should be in the building. So if a student is in cohort A and it is a Monday, we will be marking if they're in the building or not, and notify home for parents whose student is not in the building, so that you know, for safety reasons. However, attendance will still remain the same for class in general. So if a student sends in an assignment, checks in with their teacher, attends the Zoom session, they will be marked present for that day. So there are multiple opportunities that remain for students to be marked present for that class period.
So I think that there are some themes about technology and some themes about other pieces of it. And so if you put in a question that wasn't answered, we definitely, as part of our follow-up, we can reach out if we have an email. If not, we'll be putting it in an FAQ for students and families. So I feel like we probably got them pretty close to.
Great. So we thank you for joining us tonight, and we will be sending out more information. We will be sending out some specific videos, maps, more details, and we will continue to update our website as well. Of course, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to your school counselor or any of the associate principals and administrators you see here tonight, and we will do our best to answer your questions. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Please remember, if you are choosing to opt out of hybrid, that you fill out the survey by April 5th. That will give us a good idea of who to be expecting with us in person. And we are so excited to see your students back with us in person in the next few weeks. So thank you, everybody, and have a great night.